Well, hello there, everybody. How are you doing today? Hopefully, you're doing absolutely peachy keen, fantastic, great, good, forever, wonderful, loving, bye-bye, all good. Anyway, today I'm going to be showing you a little bit of me playing as Azag the Slaughterer, attempting to basically negotiate and become friends with everybody using cheats and things like that. So, what I did at first was I just turned on to make it so that no matter what you do, you have 100%. Like likelihood of them accepting it. Like no matter what you do, they're going to accept whatever you propose in terms of like diplomacy and stuff like that. And then I decided that was probably too easy to just force everyone into a military alliance, and then like at that point they can't actually fight each other, and they're really weird. But what I decided to do instead was I was just going to bribe the ever loving crap out of a lot of them until they liked me. Turns out that's not like actually super possible. Like you can see here, I'm giving that guy like $10 million, and it barely improves our relationship. In fact, it's still deteriorating. Because then what I discovered is if you do have it on to where everything like auto goes through, sometimes the donations just do not work like at all. And it's kind of interesting because then I could just, I could just continue to do what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do negotiation. See, part of what I like about engaging in these fictional settings is that, yes, orcs are all about violence and smashing and things like that, but it's kind of fun to step outside of that and instead do something more like diplomatic and like trying to get friends. And I was trying to get it in such a state where like Averland at least and maybe the Golden Order were going to be my friends. And my initial plan was I wanted to take over the whole of the Empire as like a bunch of friends, but they did not actually want to go along with that, and it became more and more difficult. I could, however, I got a military alliance with the Clan Moors, which was kind of funny. They were surprisingly helpful in this, and they just kind of hung out. But the longer this went on, the more it was just kind of like, okay, it really seems like they're just like not accepting. And also, you might look at those army values down there and go, hey, why are they all like that? Well, because I basically said it so all AI armies are drained and they all basically die if they're going to fight me. And well, the thing about that was it was mostly just so because I wanted to try and win strictly through diplomatic means at first. And I was like, okay, if they fight me, I'm just gonna wipe them out, and then we're gonna move on and negotiate with the next person. But it really didn't end up working out like that. And here's another thing. I noticed that for some of these factions, no matter how nice I was to them, they just like they were just always against me. And then, as you can see here, a bunch of people kept trying to declare war on me. Like some of the times when I went to just go through my turn, it would go through all these different people, and then it's just like, okay, declare war, declare war, declare war. Because the bigger you got, the more people you kind of interrupt their ability to take over land. Now, some of them didn't declare war, didn't like. No matter, it seemed kind of like no matter how angry they got with me, they just weren't going to declare war. The Golden Order was one of those. That may be partially because I completely surrounded the Golden Order at a certain point, and if they tried to, it would just not go well for them, almost certainly. And I mean, they had like 3 cities, I think, total. They had the Fort Seoul and then 2 other cities, their main city and one of the allied cities, or one of the smaller cities. It was not going well for them. But yeah, so basically you can see here that I conquered a huge portion. I took over like almost all of the orcs and goblins. I had Skarsnik and others in my retinue by the end of it, and Grimgor as well. And using basically just a bunch of these different orkies, what I basically did was just run around and keep meeting new people and trying really hard to negotiate with them. One that I was trying really hard to win over was the Fey Enchantress from Bretonia. She just seemed pretty cool, and she was the first one I met, and seemed at least a little more open to actually like discussions. Basically, because of the natural aversion, there was naturally like 100 aversion and like 10 of something else. So it got harder and harder to actually be able to do anything other than muster troops to fight and things like that. But I was trying to negotiate with as many of them as possible. And some of them, it was just kind of like there was basically no real way to win them over without just spending. In some cases, I was giving them like $100 million or close to $100 million or gold, and they just did not care. It like did about the same as if I just gave them a gift of like 20,000. In some cases, it looked like it did end up doing more than that, but like honestly, with the Golden Order and a couple of others, like people were just always negative towards me. It was kind of interesting because the Tomb Kings were largely nice to me, and apparently I had a bunch of relatability, so I was kind of able to just like not really worry about them because I was trying not really to fight a bunch of people if I didn't have to. I conquered, I did a John Brown, and I killed the slavers, I killed the Chaos Dwarves, I killed them in droves, I took over all their land, I took over the majority of the World's Edge Mountains you can kind of see there. And once again, I was trying at that point not to really engage in war unless someone declared war on me, which happened a bunch because basically I would go around and everything would be fine, and then, you know, they would just all of a sudden be like, nah, I don't think so. And you can see there, I gave this guy like 10 million gold, and yeah, it's helping. But what I also noticed is that some of these guys were mutually exclusive. So I wanted the Golden Order and Everland at least. Turns out they were, for one reason or another, kind of mutually opposed. If I gave gifts to one, it pissed off the other. So eventually I ended up having to choose which one to go for. Now, was this fun, is the question I think I could hear some folks saying. And honestly, kind of, yeah. See, I really enjoy using cheats and stuff like that to mess with games and kind of figure out where the limits are and press buttons and figure out, like, who am I gonna go with and who's my friend, and, you know, also what kind of weird combinations could I do? Because the idea I really wanted was to unite the Empire, but as an orc, and then use the Empire, since they were going to be a bunch of my military allies, use Empire troops to build stuff for me. And then you see 64 million there, and I think this is before I figured out that I couldn't have on the always succeed and the gift and have it work. But either way, so I was going through and I was doing this a lot. And then you can see eventually I just ended up destroying Everland because they were opposed to me. They just kept being mad at me no matter what I did. But you can also see that eventually what I just decided to do is go for a different tactic, which was I isolated the ones I wanted to keep, and then I just went a-conquering. I went way east. I took over lands all the way into Cathay, which I kind of want to do more with Cathay because I don't actually know as much about them. At a certain point, dwarves stopped declaring war on me because I think it eventually occurred to them, although you can see now it's way friendlier, I think it eventually occurred to them that I will just stomp them. And of course I would stomp any of them because of the cheats. I think at this point, if I didn't have cheats on, would it be easier to maintain? I mean, I think, in all honesty, I wasn't having that much difficulty maintaining because very few people actually attacked me. At a certain point, I had so many armies and I had so many epic heroes that no one really wanted to fight me. However, I still wasn't getting my main objective, which was getting these people to be my friends. I wanted Steerland and Ostermark and the Golden Order to be my friends. That didn't work. I was going to try and get Zufbar, which is what that is, and Karazakarak and Karak Harden to be my friends, but they all declared war on me before I could do that. So then it was just like, okay, well, the easier thing to do here is to just break them up and just destroy them. And so I ended up doing that. And I ended up just building bigger and bigger, and eventually, you can see here, I had so much land that pretty much no matter which way someone attacked me from, I would have time to build up a force. If I wasn't using cheats, I would have time to build up a force and strike back against them. Kareza Crag was also, I just thought this was really cool. Look at how much it's changed when it's under orc domination and command. I think that's pretty interesting. I love the dwarfy statues up there, though, because I was still trying to befriend some of the dwarfies who weren't immediately, hostile towards me. You can also see that we eventually ended up taking over the Great Maw. I don't know if we're letting the ogres continue their pouring of the stuff into that or what, but there's also a lot of warpstone stuff going on there. The more land I took over here, it just kind of started to feel like almost every time I've played one of these games and I've gotten far enough conquering east, because I don't normally play Cathay, but anytime I start going east, eventually this almost just starts to feel like the point of the game where I just don't care as much. Cathay seems cool, but it just doesn't have the same appeal to me that a lot of the Orc and Goblin and other stuff like that does. But yeah, eventually we got to this point. I think it was pretty fun to try and play the orcs in a different way, even if I had to use cheats to do it. And I think maybe if I just kept... Oh. Yeah, I think maybe if I just kept going on, I think it probably would have been fine if I just kept passing turns and stuff like that. The thing is, I also did this once with vampire counts, and that was kind of interesting. Because basically what ended up happening was eventually I just got to a point where I conquered the vast majority of the planet. I left some spots just because I just didn't feel like going to them. And two things I've noticed by doing this a bunch is that this game is very, very long. This is a very long game. And because even when I'm just basically just decisive victory, auto-resolving over and over again, there is so much land. And it's kind of amazing to me how much attention and detail they put into this. And that's really great. It would have been nice if I could have broken the orcs more outside of their bad guy always fighting bubble. But honestly, at a certain point, it basically boiled down to no one wanted to be nice back to me. And I kept having to basically go through and, break their stuff and then show them that, hey, I have much bigger things and I can crush you. It is also kind of funny because one of the only people one of the first people to negotiate a non-aggression pact with me was Scarbrand. He was like one of the first ones. And he never attacked me. He never did anything that I didn't like or didn't ever try to strike out against me or anything like that. And even towards the end where I stopped playing, because I was like, okay, this just doesn't seem like it's really going anywhere. Even when I give these guys gifts, they really seem like they're really, really slow, excuse me, to come back and change their mind on me. So eventually I just had to go through and kind of abandon the idea. Basically, it turned into a thing where I've surrounded the states inside of the empire that I wanted to keep and a couple other places, and I was like, okay, I will wait until eventually my gifts tire them out and they'll just come to my side. Yeah, it took a while. It was still a fun little experiment, and I would say that I still had a good deal of fun just being like, and now I want to unite all the Orkies and then make the Orkies the keepers of peace, because that is very funny to me. But that's one of the fun things about engaging in fiction, is you can kind of do what you want with it. Anyway, I just figured I'd share this little, I guess I'll call it an experiment with the cheats, just to say, hey, this is what I managed to accomplish. Could I get eventually to the point where all those people would be my friends? Probably, if I wanted to spend a bunch of time on it. But if I'm perfectly honest, at a certain point, I was just like, I don't really want to bother. I will say also that Azag the Slaughter was probably one of my favorite campaigns I've played thus far. He's a lot of fun. He's also one of my favorite orcs because I really like the whole idea of him being slightly more intelligent to begin with, and then the crown basically enhancing his intelligence and having, I think it's confirmed later to be a possessed Nagash or a fragment of Nagash or something. I don't know if that's 100% true. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of cool little items there. He's a lot of fun. I usually play him or the Golden Order. I've done vampires a couple times, once like legitimately, and then twice like with cheats just to try different things. And people still don't like vampires. Anyway, so yeah, thank you for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed that little thought typey deal. If you're wondering what I use for cheats, I just used WeMod, and I paid for the special subscription a while back, and it's if you like messing around with games and trying to break games, I would say it's worth it. Of course, don't do cheats in multiplayer. It's not fair to the other person, and the other person wants to enjoy the game the way they want to enjoy them. Simple as. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll let you know that I love you and God loves you, and bye bye, love you, bye. Have a great one. Also, wah.